Hey, Susan. We're going live on my channel. Thank you for doing this. I've meant to interview you for quite a while, and of course, as life would have it, it's always busy as you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, I do have an international audience now. Surprise, surprise, now that I work so hard on my YouTube. And I try to give them a little bit of something about, I can't travel, so it's going to be a Singapore-based artist.
That's right.
Which we have a lot, right? So, I have a long list of people I want to interview, right? And so maybe we start with the question, Susan. Who are you?
Ooh, good question. I'm Susan. I'm Indonesian artist. But I've lived in Singapore for 20 years.
Well, you're more than half Singaporean, actually.
Yeah, basically. And I like to call myself the artist educator. So I teach, and I enjoy teaching a lot because I learn. So I was just thinking about that the other day. Why do I teach?
Why do you teach?
Yeah, so I learned a lot when I teach, even if it's the same stuff that I thought I know. When I teach, I had to I can analyze, exactly, is that exactly why that is like that? So you get to do it over and over again. So the repetition doesn't feel like repetition.
Yeah, because every time you teach someone else, there's always a reaction and you go down a different path, even though when you're teaching the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I suppose, it would be nice, I think I look at myself as a teacher as well, and an epitaph that would be appropriate for us would be she was a great teacher. I think I'll be very happy with that, sort of, as opposed to he was a great consultant. Like, okay, no.
Right.
Right? So no, I much prefer, he was a great teacher. Even better if, he touched, or he taught me something, or she taught me something. And I think that's so much more meaningful, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So teacher, art, and tell me a little bit about the specific things that you teach. I understand that you taught in places like La Salle and others as well. Maybe you want to talk a little bit. Yeah.
I just teach in La Salle now, but I also teach at home since the lockdown.
Yeah.
The students were like, well, where do I go after this class?
Right.
There's nowhere to go.
So we'll get all the links of your classes, your website later down below in the description, so people can find you and they can follow you, and even just to admire your work, or even learn something from some of your online classes. You do give one or two freebie every now and then, I know. Yeah. So why not, right?
Yeah. There's one coming up.
Yes, we'll just make that in time for that. So maybe, who are you? It's one thing, but tell us a little bit about the sort of art you make. Like, what sort of art makes you excited?
I was thinking about that the other day too. What is my specialty? Lots of people want to know, what is your niche?
Yeah.
And I don't know what my niche is, except that I use watercolor on almost everything.
But you use the acrylic oil. I know you use all sorts of medium.
I used to, yeah. But now I really like watercolor, and I stick to it because there's so many different direction I can go with it. I used to be an abstract artist. So I still consider myself an abstract artist because I approach whatever I'm doing sometimes with that mindset.
Yeah.
So I teach whatever it is, travel sketching, because we used to travel before the COVID. And then I have sketchbooks full of travel sketching. They're all not necessarily urban sketching.
Yep.
They're a bit of, you can use references that are not a direct observation.
Yep.
But they are meant to enhance the result, the drawings, I guess.
I'm intrigued. You call yourself an abstract painter. Well, clearly the work that I see on Instagram these days, they are not anything abstract. But actually I know, and I'm trying to dig that out, right? So, all art essentially is abstract. Because, if you really want a non-abstract piece of visual, you take a photograph and be done with it, right?
Yeah.
So you actually interpret it, and the interpretation, in a way, is abstract because you have to lose something, you have to emphasize something, and that visual signature coming from an artist is your choice. And the choices that you make and the problem that you solve while creating a piece of art, in a way, it's an abstracting process, right? Do you agree?
I guess it's more of having a library, having a concise library of how to make lines, textures, shapes.
Oh, you're talking about elements of design. All right.
Okay.
But you named 3 of the 7, right? So
Right.
line, texture, shapes. But
But as an abstract artist, you tend to be able to make more than, let's say, if you have 6, people know 6. If you're doing abstract painting, you should be able to do like 600.
yeah, because the visual libraries you've kept over the years,
Yeah.
some imagination, some mostly from reality that you have sort of stored, right?
Yeah, and most of it has to do with just little alleyways with dirty corners.
Those are the
and
best.
little blobs that you just did
Yeah.
a flick, and then that's something.
Yeah.
And then if you've done it a lot,
Yeah.
you can do the same blob.
Yeah, I fully understand that. I mean, one is to be able to observe and see the shape. The other one is to be able to repeat it and create it, right?
Yeah.
So be able to observe and see it and be able to repeat and put it onto a piece of paper or canvas or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Those two are different processes, and sometimes we kind of mix them up. But actually, no, they are 2 different things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like to think of the variety is endless. So the concept of an artist for me is you should be able to paint anything.
Yeah.
Paint anything, draw anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you should be versatile.
Yeah.
And to be versatile, you need to be curious.
Yeah, about life.
Constantly curious about everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
You're taking words from my mouth, but
Yeah. But I find that difficult. A lot of people
Yeah.
find that really difficult. What do I do now? I've done this line and that line and this thing.
yeah, they kind of need to be
I
instructed.
just
But
don't
what
know.
about your prime motivation from inside, right? Because artists essentially are driven from the inside, the soul or spirit, and that is the moving thing that ultimately moves your hand and whatever, and
Yeah.
mold the world and put stuff into your piece of paper or canvas, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't maybe nurture that, nothing's going to come out of it that's
Yeah.
unique and so on. You can copy,
Very
but
true.
that's it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why a lot of people find beauty in the Rothko when it's just 2 blobs of color.
Yeah.
And nobody can understand how you suddenly start crying in front of certain paintings because
Yeah.
it brings out this certain emotion.
Emotion. Yeah.
But I guess these days it's difficult because unless this painting moves, I'm going to move on. You know,
Yeah.
it's a bit more difficult.
Well, that's why I'm going to video as well. Well, we move with the time.
Yeah.
All right. So nice to understand philosophically where you are from. I didn't know that, so thanks for that. And I guess maybe we move to the material side of things, right? You talked about watercolor. It pivoted earlier, and we talked about you were painting in all sorts of medium, but you find, I guess, satisfaction at the moment might change in the future. I'm not sure how long this phase lasts. But doesn't matter. I mean, it's an exploration, it's part of life. So tell us about the material that you're using today.
Okay. So mainly watercolor, but I've been testing all kinds of watercolor. So everybody has like their favorite watercolor. I don't particularly have a favorite. I'm not faithful to any particular brand. But I also use other stuff on top of it. So it's never always 100% watercolor. There's always, what can this do? What can this other thing do? What does that do? So I tend to be multi-medium,
Right.
but the main thing is watercolor.
And it sounds like the other main thing is experimentation.
Is
And
playing.
exploration. Play. No, play is absolutely correct. I think that's the problem with a lot of beginner sketches, right? They don't play anymore. They think of it as like, ooh, I bought this very expensive $150 set, and ooh,
That's
I don't really
true.
want to touch it, right?
There's so
the
much
moment
weight.
I use it, it's like, oh, I'm
So
gonna.
much weight of expectation in a lot of things.
Yeah.
And if you play with it like a child,
Yeah.
you get so many more things.
Yeah.
This is why I always say, use your other hand.
Yeah.
Draw it upside down. Do different things
Yeah.
to it but you're an adult. This is all. You just don't do this.
Yeah. We have to unlearn this behavior that we have picked up over the last whatever years, right? Undo the bad habit that we have picked up, specifically with
absolutely.
regards to art, right?
And then the whole not fear of mistake thing. That's another big thing.
Yeah, fear of mistake.
And the more you make mistakes, the more you don't care. Like it doesn't matter.
It's art. I mean, it's fun. It's play. It's exploration.
But you should see some frustrated faces, just trying to get it right, trying to be like, very specific.
I have an advice for people like that when I see them. And it goes something like this. Why are you always worried about this piece of art? You should be making 100 pieces of art like this. This is only the first.
Yeah.
Chuck this, do another one. Chuck the next one, do another one.
Because there was this saying, and I can never find the thing, where there is good artist in you. You just have to make the bad artists make so much bad art that then there's no more bad art in you.
Okay, the version I have.
What's that one?
The version I have is
What's that one?
everybody has 10,000 pieces of bad art in them.
Okay.
The sooner you get rid of them,
Right.
the better.
The better.
So that's the version I always
10,000.
tell my students. Right? So 10,000. No, I mean, just get rid of them, right? It's, I saw now, good, that's one down, right?
Yeah.
And the next one, why are you frustrated with this piece of art? It was a learning or a journey of learning or experience that you went through. Why are you so frustrated, right?
So it's interesting you say that, because a lot of people also, I find this to be unaware.
Yeah.
So you're painting unconsciously, I'll just do this. Why are you doing it like that? I don't know. So then you can spend 10,000 hours doing like that and you can't learn, you won't improve.
Yeah.
So you have to have the consciousness, I guess, be here with it.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right on that front. People are just doing it blindly, and that doesn't help. They may think that they're putting 10,000 hours. I think that is not the way to do it, right? And Bruce Lee actually had something to say about this as well.
Oh, yes.
He says, I fear not the man who practiced 10,000 kicks, but I fear the man who practiced one kick 10,000 times.
10,000 times.
And the way I interpret it is that in art, many times people are buying all kinds of material, they're trying all kinds of technique, they follow all the gurus they can find on YouTube, each with their own different school and recipe and so on, but never settle on one particular thing long enough to handle it beyond the basics, right?
Yep.
And so if you have done that, then you realize that it applies to everything else. And it was the same, I'll tell my own little story. When I started in watercolor, it was like painting everything, and I was doing acrylic and oil and whatever. And, in like a short, I thought I can do it all in 1 year when I took a sabbatical, right? No, it's not possible. So I reduced it to just watercolor. And then I reduced the subject to just flowers. And then I reduced it to just orchid.
Yeah.
And then I reduced it to just Vanda Joachim, which is the national flower of Singapore. And that's when I realized that even just that problem to solve, watercolor, Vanda Joachim, I painted maybe hundreds, I don't know. Lots of them was, right? And I learned so much when I focused down to that one thing. And it was that 10,000 on the one thing that now has the wealth of experience, and I'm using it for portraits, for buildings, for whatever. It has got some similarity, but not the same. But because you have one depth, you can now pivot.
So do you, every time you attempt the same flower, do you have a different approach, different idea, different technique, different focus, let's say, right?
Yeah, there's a slight different. Here's the thing, right? Every time you change the subject, your techniques will have to change and evolve. You got to think of, the way I think about it is like recipe. So, right, so Japanese is like painting portrait, and French is like cooking and painting streets, right? And they have their own sort of quirks that comes with it, and you need to learn the language of making those sort of art different from these sort of art. And to me, it's the recipe book, right?
Yeah,
and
that makes
so
sense.
Your recipe, basically, it has to be the ingredients, the process, the way you approach it, the way you observe it, the way you set up your kitchen, if you like, your tools and so on, all has to be different. Otherwise, you end up with, how come it doesn't work? Because it, so that's how I I don't know how you approach it, but
I approach cooking that same way.
I wonder.
I can't bake because I can't follow instructions properly. But cooking, I can see what's going on. Oh, it's doing that.
A touch of salt.
Maybe I'll throw in a little bit of this.
Yeah. Oh, I need a bit of splatter. Maybe a bit of lines. Oh, watercolor. Oh, the line disappeared.
So it's a process of discovering the end product.
Oh, I love that, right? So cooking and drawing, painting, actually a lot of similarities. Not the same, but lots of principles behind that you can kind of cross over, right? Recipe and so on. So material will. So talk about your tribes. I always think that nobody goes alone. I know you are somewhat not really attached to any in particular, but you do have your close-knit circle of artists, friends and so on. Talk through some
kind
of
the sort of not lone wolf, rather than I just follow the group from a distance.
Yeah. You like that because you can observe.
More
right?
of because I'm generally introverted, but I'm an extroverted introvert, so I need the social stuff.
Yeah.
But not all the time.
Yeah. I understand that.
I suppose my group are getting bigger now in terms of artist group. But they're doing everything. They're not strictly urban sketchers. They're not strictly something. They're all kinds of artists. And we just draw together.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, I've been part of your other groups before. So,
and then my student group is growing too, which is
good.
Amazing because they improve each other. They support each other.
That's the point I'm trying to make. I don't think you can grow on your own by being a hermit, right? Because in art, minimally you need to be looking at other people's work. Even better if you look at their process, their recipe, and the way they approach it. What do you think? Like, talk through some of your students that have like fantastic progress. The track that they are part of.
They see each other's progress and they go, "Wow, you never did that before. What happened there?" And they're not drawing every day. They draw maybe once or twice a week, or maybe once a month. They meet up and we go out together.
I've been with them a few times. I realized that they've improved.
Those group are, I don't know, they're very, enterprising, I guess you could say, and kind of somewhat hungry for information, for, well, who should I follow then if I want to do something like that? Well, I'll give you some names.
Yeah.
So if you're always curious, so I guess the curiosity is in the front of everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's the foundation of being an artist. If you're not curious, you really can't be an artist. Because you're not looking, you're not observing.
Yeah.
And before you can create, you need to be observing. You need to be seeing, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's absolutely critical. So would you recommend that if you're starting out in your journey in sketching or art, try to find a tribe to belong to? Would you encourage that?
I would encourage that, and just look. I would go to more than one group and just see, because there is also a lot of these groups. They're all doing separate things.
Yeah, and also personality, I guess. If you're an introvert or you're an extrovert like me,
trying to find the right chemistry, I suppose, with and you don't need a big group.
No, you just need a consistent, 2, 3, encouraging group.
Yeah. And then who are also kind of crazy. So what I've been doing, I just finished this called Art Ping Pong.
Okay.
It's basically 3 or 4 or 5 of us, 4 or 5 of us, I think, together in a WhatsApp group.
Yep.
And then so you get your turn. So if you're number 3, somebody else is number 5.
Yep.
And then somebody will make a piece of art. Then you post it in there. The second person will respond to that piece.
Right.
And the third person will respond to that piece. We give each other like 2-3 days.
Right. It's like playing chess, but you're
pushing it into 5. Yeah, it's like a wheel.
Yeah, so you go around.
Yeah,
Love
so it's called ping pong, but it's actually ping pong with 5 people.
Ooh, I should get myself into one of these art ping pong. Great idea. Love it.
It's so good. Yeah. So the last one, I will, you should show them the result. So yesterday we started with somebody did, this is the finale. So instead of 2-3 days, respond within the same day.
Wow.
And then that's the end of it. So that was, somebody did like a tennis ball being thrown, and then there's this sort of action motion of the ball moving that looks like French fries.
Wow.
And then the next person starts making French fries, raining French fries, and then the next person start making, so you relate to whatever it is.
Trigger.
And then it ended up with like completely different thing, like completely at the end.
Okay, so we'll get some of these images and then we'll put it on.
It's fantastic. It's fun.
Yeah, I really like the idea. That's really creating membership out of a small group, and then you encourage each other. Because what I find is that if you're studying art and you are at home or with family, and some family members are extremely discouraging. It's
exactly.
like, that is not very good, is it?
Yes.
Right? And you just die.
I think you sometimes have to have almost like I have to have a class just to learn how to deal with negative comments and feedbacks.
It's like sales. You go and no, you don't buy from me. All right. After 2 rejections, it's like I'm not gonna be a sales. It's like but art is worse because 10,000
fragility. The fragility is like
10,000 rubbish art you have to make before you're any good, right?
Yeah.
No. I mean, you can be better. I mean, if you get good teachers, right, you can always improve your art much faster than if not otherwise.
But that's what I think I like about teaching too. Is like every time I teach something, I have to do that also.
Yeah.
I have to do everything because I have to know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's pushing you to get more deep into things and to just walk your talk.
Yeah.
And if they see that, even if your drawing or your painting isn't great, but that's even better because I don't always draw good. Not everything comes out good.
Yeah. And you shouldn't expect that everything is good either.
No.
No, and that's the wrong expectation. Actually, we should talk about that because a lot of beginners they think that if you are of any good or every piece should be good. Well, no.
I find that really hard because if I do a demo, the answer would be, "Wow, you make it look so easy." Yeah, but I'm 150 years old in drawing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So I've done this so many times. So
always,
you know how old I am.
So it's not easy. It was practice. You
Yeah.
could get that too. Just
Yeah.
gotta practice, put hours.
But nobody likes that.
No.
They want
They want to be born with it.
yeah. They
Terrible.
want to be the hit wonder or like the one hit wonder kind of.
My story on this, and is that if someone tell me, you're so talented, right? I'm like, don't complain to God, right? Because what you just said is that you just told God that God didn't give you this talent and He gave me this talent.
Yeah.
And that's one part which is a problem because at some point God is going to say, I gave both of you 24/7,
Yeah.
And you didn't ask me how many hours I put in. I put in 3,500 hours of drawing so far. How many hours have you put it in? Okay, right, 2 hours, right? So
Exactly.
Exactly. You and then the other thing, you discounted my hard work. I am extremely angry when someone poo-poo my hard work.
That's right.
You mean 3,000 hours didn't count for anything? Like that sacrificed my, I could have done other things with it too,
Yeah, that's
right?
a lot of hours.
So I tell you, no, don't ever complain to God because it's hard work to a large extent. I mean, talent exists. I'm not saying no. I'm saying but
it helps. Talent helps.
It helps.
It's
but
not
without the hours,
end all be all.
you're not going to get very far either,
No.
right? I mean, even Mozart, his father was a fantastic violin teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the father's violin course withstand time for 200 years, right? So clearly he lived in an environment where teaching and the practice of music is part and core. And we talk so much about his genius talent from birth, but we ignored the other part, which is he probably listened to music from the time he was in the mother's womb.
Yeah.
And then when the time he's out, he's like, I'm right, and he's practicing in his head, fingers when young.
But this is also on the other side of that. You see people saying, "I can never do watercolor."
Oh, that's another one,
But you repeat this often enough, it does the same effect.
Yeah.
You will not be able to do it because you keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, on that's also very interesting. I think watercolor requires to let go of control, and that's something that most beginners can't do.
You're telling me,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very hard because it's like you gotta allow the water to do its job. You gotta allow the pigments to do its job. You gotta have the paper and whatever texture that you have bought to do its job, and you gotta let go of control. You gotta let go, and that's impossible.
Impossible. And I know a lot of I know there's one student who's like, well, how do I improve this? You gotta let go.
Yeah, let go.
And then we all laugh. Because there's how do we do that?
Just to let go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I fully understand that. That was my own personal challenge.
So frustrating.
But having said that, when I coming back to watercolor cold, in other words, if I have not sketched or do any painting for weeks or a few days, there's a warm up that I need, and actually what I do mentally is to let go, and it'll be a rubbish piece when I do a warm up. But if I get to let go by that end of that rubbish piece, I'm happy because my warm up is done.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the next
great
piece, then I'm saying, all right, I'm just starting. But I say, oh, you just did one. No, actually that was warm up, and that was where I'm trying to warm up my art muscles and to learn to let go. Right? Yeah. So that's kind of hard.
It's challenging because now I just try to keep a sketchbook that's just. I call it the workhorse sketchbook. So it's everything goes in there: the big mess, the small experiments, whatever.
Things that are essentially
because otherwise you're going to be so precious with it. Every page is precious, and I have to make it like the one before.
Yeah,
you're pressuring yourself for no reason.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So maybe ask about your process, your mind process, like. When you approach, let's talk about urban sketching so that it's a little bit more contextual. You go to a place, you sit down, or you observe the place. Or actually, what do you do? Like, you want to sketch on something.
I find it takes a long time to settle down. And I'm always expecting, get there in 5 minutes, I'm get going. Nah, actually, it takes like a good 20-25 minutes to rummage, to sit down, to find the right place, to find the right place, then to find the right angle, and then to find that, there is mosquitoes or there's stuff. There's all the nature
You have
stuff.
to battle the elements. I call it.
Yeah, which is very different than when you're in a comfortable studio with
Yeah.
aircon, right? So
They're two different things, by the way. They're not the same. And people always mix it up.
No, exactly. So I find when I was doing it for every day last year for a couple of months,
Yeah.
I was learning how to be in the element.
Yeah.
And then also, you already know within the 5 minutes you're drawing sometimes, this is not going to come out very nice. I already know this
Yeah.
feels kind of wrong. And usually you just like
Just keep
quit
going.
and keep going. But don't stop.
Yeah. Just
Keep going and make the bad drawing. It's fine.
One more down from 10,000.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the element of people gawking and
Yeah.
poking around
Yeah.
and behind you trying to talk to you and stuff, which I find it's good. There's never any negative
Yeah.
anything
I've always enjoyed that as well.
ever. Yeah. So it's been really fun.
I've gotten free Coca-Cola chairs.
Free
and-
food, free drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're sitting on. When you sit on a chair, I've got chairs,
Yeah.
Coke.
And lots of people just sometimes just walk past and say, "I love your work,"
Yeah.
and then just keep walking by.
It's amazing,
Really
right?
cool.
Well, there's the occasional trouble, but that's okay.
No.
Yeah, but more positive than not, actually.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely. And then I'm always trying to reduce my kit because I just
Yeah.
haven't, it's just always too much. I carry
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
I don't use all of it, but just in case I want to use it,
Yeah.
is a sort of your studio is carried out with you.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to figure that out.
Okay, we'll take some videos of that and put it in later.
Yeah.
But the kit's very important. I think one thing is that there is no perfect kit. The idea is that you know what you roughly want and you are tweaking it all the time, here and there a little bit. I just got my new set up, so it's like just keep going, right?
Just gotta keep
Yeah.
trying. Yeah, my latest one didn't kind of work. It's behind there. It's basically like a vest, but it has pockets.
Right.
But it's not a vest. It's
So you
like
put your
pocket.
stuff there.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's just like
It's like a camera.
holsters.
Yep. It's
It's
like
like
a
that.
camera or a sketches.
Yeah, exactly.
We should design one just for sketches.
Yeah.
Camera.
But I have to
YouTuber.
also sometimes I notice these things. Oh, but then my boob's in the way.
Okay, well.
'cause
I don't have that
putting
problem.
stuff-
But
Yeah, you don't have that problem.
I have other issues, but yeah.
And then there's the heat and
Singapore. But I love the heat.
yeah, and I see a lot of artists out there, in the winter and
Yeah.
like battling the opposite, right?
Yeah, and that's not a good problem because your paint and your water freezes up.
Exactly.
And your brush.
That's why you use vodka. Some people use vodka, or
Yeah,
some people
spirits.
use their saliva.
freezing point is higher. No, I'm not sure about that, but whatever works, we'll
Yeah.
do anything for art. Just don't
Yeah.
starve. Right. So, tell us about your process or I'm coming to the muscles part, which is how do you develop the muscles, right? To me, it's like your calendar is filled with things, and you talk about last year where you said I will draw out there every day for a period.
Yeah,
What's your current process?
projects.
Yeah, like maybe even your calendars. What are you working on, or how are you disciplining yourself?
I think number one is always trying to find something that I am really interested in, like really want to get into. And it gets hard sometimes
Yep.
because it's like, now what? I've done that. Now I've done this.
Yep.
So once I find that, so lately I've been using a sketch app, the Sketch a Day app,
Yeah, sketch a day.
which I didn't think was going to be useful, but is surprisingly useful. Even if some of the prompt, I have no idea. Majestic. I know. It makes you think. You
Yeah.
gotta really think about
I
it.
love those actually because that really keeps you thinking about a theme,
Yeah.
and it's always about using that as a jumping ground
Yeah.
to something else, right? And
Yeah.
that you make it your own, right?
Yeah, so every day I try to put something in there so you have a streak of constant
Yeah, I understand.
something.
Yeah.
And then, projects like just use your left hand for a week, or just use this black and white. Just use only all my black paints for a few days. And I'm seriously frustrated because it's like, I love color.
What you're talking about is limiting.
Yeah, just
Limiting,
limit
right?
everything. And then testing materials. That's the
I
best
love
fun.
it.
That's the best time, right?
Yeah. I
Even
love testing. Yeah.
the inexpensive stuff, you try it and say, oh, I see why this is not going to work.
Rubbish.
Yeah, why this is so bad.
It's always good to learn something wrong with your material so that you know what is right
Yeah.
with your other materials,
Yeah.
right? So it is okay if you go to Daiso. Some of you may have Daiso anyway,
Yeah.
and go buy a $2 watercolor pack
Yeah.
and try it. and you might end up saying, actually, this is not bad. Okay, it's not professional quality,
Yep.
but I could
Be surprised.
be surprised.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you learn something from, crayons that your children use and like what's wrong with. Look, ultimately, if you can make a confident line,
Yeah.
that line would have taught you something as well, even if you use a children's crayon, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's good to hear that. So I've got a lot of and I've got a lot of footage in here. Maybe just to conclude,
Yeah.
2-3 things about things that you wished you knew. From the years when you started, right? Let's not go down how many years, but if you have a notes to self when you start, 2-3 things, what would that be? Susan the younger, from Susan the more experienced.
Yeah. Wow. Good question.
Hard.
I guess that thing you said about letting go, just let it go.
Yeah.
And then less critical self-talk, I guess.
Yeah. Don't be critical of yourself.
Because
it's a
I'm
journey,
very
right?
critical, and I
Right.
know that. But the voice, you can be critical, but you can be loving
Right.
and say, I think that could be better, but that's pretty good right now.
Right. Oh, so that's the devil, and then that's the angel, and you're like,
Yeah, you do it
Just-
with nicely.
Yeah.
You say it to yourself nicely and not beat yourself up about it.
Right. It's okay. It's okay to make some mistakes, and it's a learning experience, right?
Yeah,
After all, it's not that piece that matters; it's the experience you gain.
I totally agree with
Right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get caught up with
Of course.
the result,
It's like,
right?
oof, I could.
And just follow the fun, follow the
Don't do it if it's not fun.
attraction. Yeah, absolutely. Don't do it.
Don't do it if it's
Don't
not
do
fun.
it for anyone
well, it's fun.
else.
So what's wrong with it, right? Do it for yourself, right?
And
After all,
then
yeah.
keep it light. That's the other thing. Just keep it silly, even if you can, because just don't take anything that seriously.
Yeah.
But you do get like that.
Yeah. You tense up and you're like, every piece must be a masterpiece.
I guess some people are more like this than others, but yeah. I don't know.
No, it's been great talking to you, Susan. I've always enjoyed learning from you.
Same here. I learned
Yeah.
so much from you, even just for 5 minutes. Every time we see each other on the street, you will say something and I'll go, "Oh, I didn't know that." So I was learning.
We are always learning, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I find the most fun thing about being in the art circle.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a stiffy, I tell you, and No, it's really a learning experience. You can learn from anybody who is even just starting out. 'Cause
Absolutely.
They're doing something new and they're done before. You look at them and like, why are you doing that?
It's
Right.
the baffling sort of basic questions that you never thought
Yeah.
anyone will ask you.
And
Will
and
be
you learn
like,
something.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you
Thank
as
you.
always. And I'm sure my audience will also enjoy and learn something from this. We actually touch on quite a lot of stuff that's very, very interesting. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
for your time.
Pleasure. My pleasure.
Bye.
Good seeing you.